What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. We bring on guest speakers. Today, I'm incredibly excited to welcome the wonderful, the incredible Miss Jaymie Gerena. How are you, Jaymie?
I'm amazing.
Hold on. I'm going to do something. Jaymie Gerena. Hold on. There we go.
I'm waiting for the
yeah, I think I have that on there. I don't know. But Jaymie, what's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot. How's it going over there?
It's going well. We were just chatting backstage before we started about arte stuff. Now I found out something I was a little perturbed by, but I've got it getting it fixed. So
perturbed. Word kills me.
I'm slightly displeased about it. So for those of you that don't know who Jaymie is, Jaymie Gerena is a mother of 3 beautiful children, 2 girls and a boy. Transformational Strategist. She's a speaker and a philanthropist. Beyond transcending the title, she is a passionate soul on a mission to serve. Over the past 9 years, she had personally helped hundreds of people reframe their lives and design businesses that allow them the freedom and flexibility to be present and at ease with those that they love. Her passion is helping fellow sisters, visionaries, and business owners remove their limitations and rise to their highest selves. What she found is when we allow ourselves to connect to our sacred flow, we are able to step into the beautiful creations we were always meant to be. Through overcoming her own adversities in life and being the child of 2 drug-addicted gang members, she realized that reality is all that you believe and make of it. It's the questions you ask yourself about the cards you have been dealt. She supports both men and women on taking back their power and stepping into their potential by undoing the past limitations and implementing new strategies to increase the outcome for success. And she tells her clients, I'm the person you go to when you've tried all the things, but for some reason, it's still not working.
Wow, that was a mouthful, huh?
That was a mouthful. I liked it. That's good though. That's powerful. It's powerful. And I'll tell you know what? So Jaymie and I met at a unofficial Arte convention, which is why we're both wearing our Arte shirts. So we're both in Arte. We're obviously Arte brothers and sisters. And we met each other in Wisconsin, in Madison, Wisconsin, at Josh Kosnick's event when I spoke on stage, and then we recorded a podcast. And so she is, like, looking at her, she is unassuming. She's a tiny little female. Although it was funny. So I got in there because the event had already started by the time I arrived. I was just starting because I flew in later than everybody else. And I started talking with Chris, and we were in the back of the room talking, and you turned around and you went, and shushed us. At first I thought you were Josh's wife. I was like, man. Like, I thought you were like running the event. I was like, man, they are like running a tight ship here, bro. I was like, we gotta get back here, like, shut our mouths. So,
that's funny.
So yeah, so very, very unassuming. You're very slight female, but then you actually start to talk to her and peel back those layers. You realize, like, man, you've been through some trauma in life.
He's a feisty one.
So why don't you share a little bit about the trauma? I mean, that was a banger of a headline talking about your drug addicted parents, but talk about some of the experiences that you had and how that shaped you to, and everyone's different, right? You either become the hero or the villain depending upon your situations, but how those situations, how you decided to become the hero of the story.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the floor. And I mean, it depends on how far we want to go back, right? I would say for me, one of the earliest memories that I have is wiping the blood off of my mom's arm as she slipped into a heroin high. And so that started at a really young age. I was actually born a drug baby and lived in it for quite a few years. Both my parents were gang affiliated. And so blood was pretty much what I was raised in. Started at a really young age and went through a lot of trials and tribulations from sexual abuse that started at the age of 2 and lasted until I was 14 years old, until I decided that I was no longer going to live under the same roof. And so I bounced at 14. I remember expressing to my mom the last time, like, hey, this has been going on. I was abused sexually, and she actually didn't believe me at that time and decided to stay with her husband at the time. And so when you go through an experience like that, where you are where someone doesn't believe you over something so traumatic. For me, how I took that is if they didn't care, I shouldn't care. And by I shouldn't care, I stopped caring about who I was. I stopped caring about my body, and I partied hardcore. I mean, I dropped out of high school. I was like barely making it. I lasted a couple more years, but like I ended up dropping out of high school. I was partying all of the time. You didn't know what state I was in because I would either pop on a flight or I'd pop over with friends and we would drive. And it was just a really unstable environment for me to live in. I remember at one point I was visiting my little brother. So I have a house full of siblings, all different, it was either on my mom's side or on my dad's side. And I was visiting my little brother, who is my dad's son. So at their mom's house, like it was just a whole separate family. And when I was there, the new stepdad and my dad and our big family were all together, and they got into an altercation. It was just chaos. And you have these two alpha masculine gang member men brawling. And I just remember seeing blood. And I just remember being told, grab all the kids and go to the downstairs apartment. And so we're scurrying down like these old dark hallways to get downstairs to the apartment, and we're hiding behind the couches, and it sounded like the whole house was coming down. I mean, like two grown men, all of the other people that were in the house trying to break them apart. And it was one of those moments where you start to learn identity. Like you don't know that you're going through chaos when you're going through it. It just feels normal for you. But in that moment, I just sat back and I realized like, oh, like this is my life. This is just what we do. And a part of me believed that I couldn't trust people in that moment. A part of me believed that I couldn't trust people when I was being sexually abused. A part of me believed that I wasn't cared for, that I wasn't enough, that I was unworthy. And I watched my dad go to jail that night, completely covered in blood. And so those are just some examples of the things that I've experienced. 2 years after my dad passed away due to drugs and just years of abuse and guilt from all of the things he'd done in his life, my little brother followed his same footsteps and actually got murdered by a gang as well. And so when all of that kind of comes over your life and comes weighing on your shoulders, you hit this point where you just break. You just break, being the witnesser of the experiences in your life. I broke, man. Like I broke in the most inconvenient time. At this point, I was married. I had a daughter at the time. My marriage was completely rocky. We were at the end of it because I got into a relationship, one, far too young, and two, without any healing or self-love. And so I relied on him for all of it. I didn't love myself. And so I was like, well, you better love me because I don't know who the hell I am. And that didn't work.
It never does.
That didn't work one bit. And so, when all of this happened, I found myself suicidal. Like I really didn't want to live. And it's not that I didn't want to live. I just didn't want to live being myself. And so I was still in this place where I was blaming everybody for my circumstances. I blamed my ex-husband for why I was unhappy. God forbid it was my fault, right? Like I blamed everybody for why my life wasn't going the way that I had wanted it to go. And it came as a slap in the face when I realized that the only common denominator was me.
Yeah. That sounds familiar for probably a lot of people, to be honest, and me included. You went through some very, very traumatic and very powerful experiences that anyone going through could have fell victim to, similar to, God rest his soul, your little brother, and which cost him his life.
Yep.
Why do you think that you were able to get out of it? How did you?
Oh man. Yeah, honestly, I don't have a definite answer for that. Like there wasn't a moment for me where I was like, I'm different. I think it was more of getting to a point in my life where I had a decision to make. And for me, taking myself out of the equation, as in suicide or taking my life, or even opting into substances, because I saw what that did to the people that I loved in my life. I stood clear of substance. I wouldn't even touch it because there was enough pain associated with trying it, right? I drank a lot, but other than that, I mean, I wasn't into other hard drugs or anything like that. But when it came down to it, I think when I was on the floor of my apartment after deciding that I wanted to get a separation from my husband at the time, it was the first Christmas. It was around Christmas time. It was the first Christmas I didn't have my kids. And I was sitting alone in my apartment. My whole world just collapsed. I was completely broke, was a high school dropout, no college education. I lived in a new state that I knew nothing about. We moved from California to Virginia. I was so lonely that I think I just hit a point where I didn't know what to do. So I just gave up. I surrendered. I didn't give up. I surrendered. And I put my arms up and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is the moment. Either I take myself out or I move forward. And I swear I was the only one in the apartment, but it felt like somebody else was in there because I heard it. And it was a voice and it said, if you can't find the light, you must become it. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, that's strange. I don't even know what that means. I have no context to that. So at that point, it was just words. But I remember feeling a little bit of hope, which was enough to drive me to Google. And I typed in how to be happy. And I was flooded with information. And it honestly was overwhelming because I didn't know what it meant, right? Like, I just thought that you were born happy. I didn't know that you could become happy. And so I was just looking and grasping for any sort of information or data that can support me to not feel so depressed. And so it was flooded with information, blogs, videos, YouTubes. And I clicked on one and it was an intervention with Tony Robbins. And so from that moment, I became obsessed with personal development. I read 16 books in 3 months, and I learned that you can actually recondition your mind. I was waking up and going to sleep with audios to rewire your unconscious mind. And I was so determined to fix myself because I still believed that I was broken. And to be honest, I still believe that I was broken up until a couple of years ago, until I decided, like, that's no longer my identity. I actually love who I am as a person now. And so for me, there was enough pain associated with staying where I was at, and there was enough pleasure for me to live for my kids. And so when I was at my rock bottom, the only thing that kept me going were my daughters, because they were the only ones that were born at that time.
What audios do you listen to when you, or at night when you're in through the morning, what to recondition your brain? Sure, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, huh, what she listen to? So I'm sure other people are thinking it too.
Yeah. So Dr. Shad Helmstetter, he is freaking phenomenal. He has so many audios on rewiring your unconscious mind that you would go to sleep with and wake up with. And I would have it on in the background all day. So even while I was working, it was on super light and I was just crushing through my day. And I was just really rewiring my unconscious. Yeah. Dr. Shad Helmstetter.
And how would you, I mean, you obviously recommend it. How do you feel like it helped you?
I think the most amazing thing is we don't understand the information that we're consuming every day. I mean, even in the music that we listen to, there was a song, you might even know this song, but it was All Time Low. It's like, I'm at an all time low, 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 low. That alone, right? I was obsessed with that song. And it's so catchy and it's so good. But when you're listening to it, the words are shit.
Yeah.
So we're listening to this stuff all day, but when you choose to listen to things that are actually elevating and empowering, you can rewire in a positive way versus a negative way. But most of the music that we listen to today is wiring into the negative. It's creating a belief within us that we need to F bitches and get money, right? And so for me, what shifted was just the way that I began to think about life, began to believe about the things that I would look at. It started to shift my identity and my confidence because some of the audios that I was listening to were about belief and confidence. So depends on what you end up choosing from, I guess, the audio specifically.
Okay. I'm gonna get that those recordings from you offline.
Mm-hmm.
Which I started listening to some stuff when I go to sleep. Because I went and did a hypnotherapy session. And it was pretty cool. It was basically like meditation. Like I wasn't fully asleep, but I kind of like drifted off for like a second and then I got to come back. And it's like a guided meditation almost. but she recorded it and then provided me a copy. And so sometimes I'll listen to it as I'm going to sleep. And I fall asleep before it's even over. It's like 25 minutes. I fall asleep before it's over. But it just plays until it's done and it stops playing on its own. But I do feel like it's helped me with like law of attraction, like just attracting certain things into my life. So
Yeah, cool.
highly recommend doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm a hypnotherapist, so that stuff is fun for me too.
Oh, okay, so yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's yeah, it's great. I mean, the stuff is phenomenal. Like it really does change your perception
Hmm.
and your beliefs. So
Yeah. I mean, it's helped me a ton. It depends on which one you listen to. They all have different intentions. And also, your intention going into it matters so much more than the words that are even said on record.
yes, yeah, the belief. If you're just really closed minded, like this stuff is stupid, I don't believe it, and like nothing's gonna work.
Well,
Like you just
but that's the belief you perpetuate, right? So if you go
exactly,
into it with a closed mind and a belief that this stuff doesn't work, then your wish is my command.
yeah, then it's not gonna work because that's what you believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just went out with an open mind. I was like, hey, I heard this can be powerful, and I'm opening up myself to meditation, and so I'd like to try it and just keep an open mind.
Yep.
So let's see, you know. So it was good. I did enjoy it. So how do you currently like how do you get from changing your like being rock bottom, being without your kids, starting to get obsessed with personal development to now you how many companies do you have now? You have like two companies. You're an elite level coach. You're helping business people. You're helping women step into their best versions. Like, how do you where was that connection, the meeting point there?
Yeah, it felt like hell. Honestly, my entire life felt like it was up in flames for a while because 95% of our thoughts every day are actually thoughts that we've already thought yesterday.
Mhm.
So you're working with 5% of your conscious mind to force yourself to believe something else.
Yeah.
And that is the hardest freaking thing when your entire life in my belief system felt difficult and presented me with situations that I created a belief in, right? And those beliefs were we struggle. We're always going to be on government assistance. I'm not safe for people to know who I am. I'm not safe to show up or be heard or be seen. And when these are formed as a belief system, it's nearly impossible to show up as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
I wouldn't feel safe, right? I wouldn't feel comfortable. I wouldn't want people to hate on me because I've already felt so small my entire life. I never felt enough or I always felt unworthy, right? And so in those moments, it was doing it anyway. It was forcing myself to show up again because I had something greater like my children that forced me to get up because I had to provide. I had to serve my family. I had to make sure food was on the table. And to be honest, there were months where all I ate was protein powder and like ramen to make sure that my kids had apples and carrots, right? And like real food.
Mhm.
And so what happened for me was I ended up doing the only thing that I thought that I could possibly do at the time, which was join a network marketing company. And I ended up getting 2 levels away from the top of the company after 3 months and completely crushed it, was able to provide for my family and started to change the trajectory. But even with that, I found myself succeeding and then I'd crash because my beliefs of unworthiness would creep up. And then I would succeed and then I'd crash. And then I did this scaling, right? But when you're in it, you feel like you're going backwards. But when you zoom out of the lens, you started from here and you're still crawling up, even in those moments that you feel like you're dipping. You're
Mhm.
still ascending, you're still creating, you're never starting back from ground zero. It's always based off of all of the learnings that you've already learned.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Um, that's a good perspective and a good way to put it because a lot of people don't realize, especially when if you're not an entrepreneur, you haven't become like a business owner or worked for yourself, or you're new into it. You don't realize that everyone that's on the same journey, it has like I can't tell you how many times that I had like a just great month, just like 60,000. And I'm like, yeah. And then 2 weeks later, I got 2 cancellations and I'm like, I suck. I'm terrible at this. Why am I doing this? Like, I want to quit. Like, I should just get a friggin' salary job and
position. No one likes me.
Yeah. And then I would like have this like pity party for like 3 or 4 days. And then I'd finally be like, oh shit, I need to go make money because I'm not paying attention to my business. And then it would like kick me into high gear. And then I would, so I had the same, like, but if you look at if you zoom out and you look at where you started to where you're at, there is an overall growth. It's like looking at the stock market, right? It's just steady growth that is just marked with a couple of downhills along the way. And that's a great way to put it, and a great perspective to have, because it can be lonely, and it can be mentally just challenging. I think is too easy of a word. Mentally distraught almost, the going through this as an entrepreneur and trying to create something new, especially if you come from I don't come from entrepreneurs or business owners. I wasn't raised as a kid and I had this like entrepreneurial spirit. Like I just kind of was like, meh, I got nothing else that I really want to do. I'm going to try this kind of thing. I just kind of like happened into it. And so it wasn't like I had this like unwavering belief that I was meant to like own my own business. The whole time I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. Like I struggled a lot at the beginning. It sucked. And so it was just until I refused to quit. I was just like, I'm not fucking quitting. This is not happening. Like I'll go live on the fucking streets underneath the bridge and still not quit. Like I'm an insurance agent.
like this is fine. I'm fine.
I'll have a cardboard like a sign like buy a policy from me. Keep your family safe.
Oh my God. When you were saying like none of your family were entrepreneurs, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, mine are gang members. I guess that's pretty entrepreneurial.
That's pretty entrepreneurial. But you had a better leg up than me. I'm just saying.
It's so funny. And like my grandmother did do Mary Kay and kind of crushed it. So I'm like, all right, maybe we're onto something.
Yeah,
I know how to hustle.
I think my sister tried to do Mary Kay at one point. No, it was my sister-in-law. It was my brother's first wife. She tried to do Mary Kay, and that didn't last very long. But I remember my mom being like afterwards, I remember talking to her about it because I was a kid at the time, and she was just like, "Oh, that's just a scam." Okay. Honestly, so that's my family's opinion about entrepreneurial opportunities. Which, don't get me wrong, Mary Kay probably is a scam. I don't know. It like beats me.
I mean, it's a long ass scam. If it's a scam, it's been around for a long time.
I don't know, but I mean, it's still around. I'm just saying.
Someone's getting paid.
So yeah, you're right. It's a long journey going from where you were to there, but you made it. So talk a little bit about how you help people that come into your program that are looking for, and I know you have different types of structures based on like group and individual.
Yeah. So, I mean, how I encompass all of it is the understanding that we are in our past. We are exactly who we are in any given moment. And it has nothing to do with our past and has nothing to do with our future. And once we can realize that we get to create our life however we want to, we get to rewrite everything that's held us back from that. And so that is people that come into my circles, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's stay-at-home moms, it doesn't really matter. We all have conditioning, right? And so my goal is to help people change the conditioning that has created the patterns and the habits and the beliefs. And once we get down to the root of where it was started and what caused it, then we can rewrite the story. And so I've seen people come back from eating disorders, suicide attempts, businesses that weren't scaling at all to crushing $35,000 after the first couple of months. And so it's been amazing to witness the transformations that happen, sexual abuse, etc., deaths. And it's not so much about the stories. It's about, for me, what brings me so much joy is like when we pop on our calls like this, whether it's on Zoom or a recording, you just watch the energy, like the old layers that no longer serve them completely fall away. And it's like this confidence comes out, like they stand taller, they speak differently, they believe differently. But that's what happens over time. They don't come in and then just change after one conversation, right? They'll have a lot of breakthroughs after one conversation, but change comes with instilling new patterns and instilling successful habits.
Yeah. Nice. How long do you find clients typically work with you before they start to make those changes?
So we release beliefs right away. So I do something called a breakthrough session, and these breakthrough sessions are over a span of 3 days, and it's 8 hours over 3 days.
Wow.
And so the first day we dig everything up. And it's not digging everything up as in like, give me all of the details of every trauma you've ever experienced, because that can be brutally painful. But what I dig up is how they go about their life, what they do, who's important to them, the models that they've learned from, the things that they've experienced, what they learned from those experiences, what they believed from those experiences. And I'm essentially being them for the day. I want to learn whether they put their pants on with their left leg or their right leg first. Do they wipe from the front to the back or the back to the front? Like, I want to know.
Important details.
I want to know these little details about.
Do they wipe standing up or sitting down?
Do they even wipe? Or do they use what are those?
A bidet.
Yeah, do they use that? So I want to know how these people live life, because then what I'm able to do is put the puzzle pieces together on their lens of how they saw the world.
Mm.
And when you get the lens of how they saw the world, you can see the patterns that they've perpetuated over time. So if you have a belief of I'm not safe, and you get down to the root cause of the first moment that you didn't feel safe, that you believe that you weren't safe, you then pulled that into your future. So every situation, you've instilled this belief in your relationships, in your health. I'm not safe to lose the weight, because if I lose the weight, maybe I'll get sexually abused again. I've seen that happen so many times. If I'm overweight, then they won't want to touch me. That's been a belief for someone who's experienced something in their past. So they're not safe in their relationships. I'll get cheated on. I'm not safe in my career. I don't want to show up because what if they don't like me? Do you see the pattern? So what happens is when we get to that lens, when we get to that filter and we change the story to that, they can see old situations with new eyes.
That's powerful. And there is a lot to the concept of living in the past. And I think that's why that's the whole living in the past, or afraid, the fear of the future, right? The not being present in the moment is probably the greatest thing that holds people back and are like stuck in vices, stuck in their habits that are literally like just like keeping them still in life, or preventing them from moving forward or growing or becoming the best version of themselves. Usually it's linked to a past action or a fear of the future. They're too busy looking forward and too busy thinking about the past and drumming up those feelings. And something I talk about with my clients is you have to realize that your brain doesn't understand time. So the more you think about the past, sometimes it'll bring up memories and you'll have feelings and it feels like it's happening right now. Your brain knows no different. But if you're just focused on that, that's where all your energy is flowing. That's where everything is going. You got to let that shit go, and you got to be present and realize that it doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist anymore. The future does not exist. It's malleable. So the only thing that exists is right now.
Mm-hmm. And a perfect example of that and I want to preface, I am so far from perfect. There are things that I'm working on every single day of my life, and there's still old conditionings that I'm still relearning how to rewire, right? Because with every level that you expand into, there's new lessons and new teachings and new learnings and more layers that have to be unpeeled, right? And so the other day I was around the dinner table and the kids were just chaotic. I mean, they were going back and forth. My daughters just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I felt my body responding, but my brain didn't know why it was responding, but my body had memory. And so I was like, it feels hot in my body. And I feel this like fear and anger starting to boil in my body. And I got up from the table. I sent one of them to the room calmly. I'm like, okay, time for you to go upstairs. Go, done, goodbye. And I stepped away from the table and I sat for a moment, went on a walk, and I just thought about it. And I'm like, oh, in my house, chaos, which I considered the dining table at that point in time chaos, was unsafe. If there was chaos in my house, that meant shit was about to go down.
Yeah.
So my body, my nervous system was conditioned in that moment to feel that old emotion. And so, but the work that we do is understanding that, and it's getting your mind to match up with your body. It's creating that coherence from your mind, your heart, your body, your spirit, all of it. And it's helping yourself understand why you do the things that you do. And when you can make that connection, that's when transformation happens so much faster. So where it would have taken me days to kind of overcome something like that, or hours, it took me minutes. And that's the process through growth and evolution.
Yeah. That's powerful. I like that. And that realization in the moment, for you to take a minute, stop, think, why does my body feel this way? This is strange. Like, what's going on? And then having, like, working backwards to find the root cause. I mean, like, okay, now it's like almost acknowledge in that moment was power. That was the acknowledgement of
Yeah.
why everything was going on, so that you could align your body, your spirit, and your heart. And that's incredible, that just through doing, your process, your work of being able to work through these things, how you can overcome within minutes, really
Yeah.
quickly. So
But I will say, it's not everybody can get there as fast. And that's okay, especially when you're first getting started.
Yeah.
And so some people need to journal. Some people all people need to change their physiology. I don't care who you are, what you do, where you come from. The number one thing to change your energetic state is changing your physiology.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's either jumping up and down, it's going on a walk, it's yelling to just get air inside of your lungs to let the energy that is pent up in your body out. So it's doing something to change your physiology first, and then taking a deep breath and deciding, okay, what do I need? Everybody needs something different. Some people do better with music. Some people do better with journaling. Some people do better with calling a friend, or, asking a family member. And so you've got to check in and say, what do I need in this moment to feel better? I needed a walk. I needed to understand myself. I needed to give myself compassion and empathy. Hey, I know you're feeling this. You're safe. What's coming up for you, kid? Like, what are you feeling? And I parent myself. I mother myself in those moments, because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have someone who checked in on me and my emotions.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I had to do it myself.
I like that a lot. Walking's powerful. It's such a great exercise. It's a great steady state cardio, great for fat burning, great for the mind. Get some vitamin D, get outside, get some sun. I'm looking pale right now. I need to go. Like, it's just great. It really, really is. And I have a deep appreciation for it, more so now, because of the time that I spent in Spain doing the Camino. And I felt very spiritual breakthroughs, and enjoyed my time with these incredible men, and I didn't know any of them, that I went on the hike with, and I got to know each of them intimately in different ways. And so, I was already kind of a walker, but I was always putting my podcast in, putting in an audiobook, like listening, so I could listen to something while I'm doing my walk for a workout purposes. But now I'm like, there's times I'm going on walks, I'm not listening to anything. I'm just enjoying. I'm just visually observing and taking in the sights, nature, breathing, smelling, using my senses, right? And it's a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
more comes to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, what I found is when I stopped listening to something every single time I worked out, I was able to hear myself more.
Mhm.
And you don't realize how fucking brilliant we are. We have some really solid ideas that tend to pop up when we're just being, versus feeling like we have to consume to do better, which then makes us believe we are not as far as we want to be. It perpetuates that belief system, right?
Yeah.
And so when I am actually just with myself and I'm walking, there are times where I just got to pull out my notes on my phone and freaking get everything out of my head. And there's some really brilliant stuff in there. We forget how powerful we are and how full of information and content and wisdom we are.
That's actually, I need to do better about journaling, that kind of stuff. I've done it before in the past, and I like this tactile pen to paper. you know, and I write out gratefuls, but I don't really write out like ideas or things that are bouncing around in my head, right?
Mhm.
Not as often as I'd like.
Yeah. What I
So
found super helpful that I feel like you would like this so much more is walking around with my headphones in and recording a voice note and just keeping the voice note on and just talking shit into my mic. Like
yeah,
whatever comes up, there'll be 10 minutes of nothing, but then there'll be like 4 minutes of something really good that was like, oh, this is an interesting thought. Let's talk about this to ourselves.
yeah.
Like you would drive with that.
I do have some random voice notes where I'll be in the car and I'll have a thought and I'm like, that's really good. And then I'll just turn the voice note and I'll just start talking, just spitting all this information out. Usually it's like I got an idea for a reel or a story or like something, some content that I'm like, I think this would slap. Like this would be great. This is a great idea. A lot of times it's that kind of stuff.
Is
So
that the new age
that's the yeah, that's apparently so I got a buddy of mine that's he's also a coach, an online coach. And he's lives in Calgary, but he's from Wales. And so he always says slap. He's been saying since he's been here. So it's just really funny to hear. And
My
now
kids
he's
told
got
me
me saying
Riz the other day. I'm like, what? They're like Riz. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but it does not sound good.
it. Yeah. So get that content that slaps, man.
Slaps.
But speaking of content that slaps, Jaymie's got some content that slaps. If you
Ah,
haven't seen that, if you have not checked out her Instagram, you definitely should. It is her name at Jaymie Lee Gerena. Go check out her Instagram because she does have some content that slaps, and her stories are phenomenal. Actually, I've stolen some stuff from her stories. I'm like, ooh, that's really good. I like how that's done, and then I'll repurpose it for me. But yeah, do me a favor. Go check out Jaymie's Instagram and her content. And if you have any questions, I'm sure is best way to reach out to you DM, or do you have a website where they can like reach out to you?
all of it's Jaymie Gerena. Instagram's Jaymie Lee Gerena because my last account was hacked. So we're starting fresh, you guys. We're starting.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And then you're starting a podcast here soon. Talk a little bit about that.
I am. So it's going to be called Activate Your Inner Alchemist. And it's all about how people started their journey, whether it's business or even motherhood or fatherhood, whatever. And it's the lessons that they needed to learn that got them to where they are today and how they became the alchemist of their own story and of their own life.
I like that.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't read The Alchemist, you need to. It's a great book. It's a great book. And what's funny is that I think different times, if you read it multiple times and it's at different times in life, you'll identify with different characters in the story. Or like there's one character in the story that changes multiple times, and like you'll identify with different parts of his journey. And so, fantastic book. Man. It's actually a really, really good book. It's one of those that I remember when I read it, my buddy kept telling me to read it, and I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. And then when I started, I couldn't put it down, and I read it really quickly. Like you can read it in a day if you want to, or like 2 days easily. So
there's been a couple of those books that I've opened and I could not put down. Like I've gone nights with just reading through, trying to finish this book.
Did you read the book Do It that Josh was giving out at his event?
Not yet.
It's so good. It's actually it is surprisingly really good. I'm almost done with it. I like how he basically like hones in on all the different types of limiting beliefs that hold people back, and then he has a historical figure that was challenged by that and how they overcame it, and then he also has like an animal, like a spirit, but an animal that could be like your spirit animal, and like how their natural aptitude in the world, how it challenges and how it basically overcomes that limiting belief.
Ooh, I like
It's
that.
really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's very smartly done. So
I'll pick it up.
Yeah, that's definitely a good book. So Jaymie, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast with me and just having a great conversation. This was awesome. The last thing I always love to do with all of my guest hosts is ask them a question. The question is, if you had the opportunity to sit down with, eat some food, break some bread with, learn from, converse, whatever, with 3 individuals, anyone in history, alive or deceased, who would they be and why?
Oh, this is hard. I'd probably re-meet with my dad and my brother, just to see how they're doing, see what's up, and have them see this version of me. And then the last one, man, the last one. I honestly, I don't know. I don't feel like there's anyone that I need to meet. That's hard.
Well, that's the thing. It's not that you need to meet them.
Yeah, but
It's
like
that you would enjoy. Like that would be an intriguing conversation, right?
I feel like I just love always connecting with new people.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's someone that I would be like, oh, I would love to sit down.
It could be the next soul that you can touch and change.
Yeah.
Boom. There you go.
I'll have to sit with that one. I'll message you and be like, this is who it is.
This is
This is who it is.
Marcus Aurelius.
I don't know. That's too funny.
I've been reading a lot of Marcus Aurelius too. Stoicism's actually getting it's starting to wear on. It's I like it. Yeah, it's building up in me. So if you guys haven't read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, it's completely free. Like you can just freaking get it on I'm pretty sure Kindle or Apple Books, completely free without paying for it. It's a great book. Highly recommend it.
I have it in my bookshelf somewhere.
Yeah, it's just a great book. Like it's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Jaymie, for coming on the podcast. This has been awesome having you on. I was excited to do this. And if anyone is watching, then do me a favor. Watch until now. Obviously, you got value from it. So share this content so that other people can get value from it, so that other people can overcome the traumas in their past, or they can reach out to Jaymie to find strategies to get help to be able to overcome it. It takes 30 to 60 seconds for you to rate, review, subscribe, or share. And it means the world to both Jaymie and I for you to share that content. So we appreciate it. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, deuces. We'll see you.